legal redress. Commission. The legal redress. Commission. The legal redress. Commission. The legal redress. Commission. The legal redress.
This is how we do it.
Ladies, gentlemen, ladies, gentlemen, and gentlemen. Look, we tweaked our little video recording software just a little bit. It is 9:31 in the evening on this before that ignorant holiday, Thanksgiving. By the way, those of you who celebrate Thanksgiving, please understand that I'm not putting you down. I'm putting down the actual surroundings of this so-called holiday. Remember, a lot of people died as a result of what this holiday represents. This holiday represents people taking what wasn't theirs and conniving and scheming and killing and giving blankets that had smallpox and blah, 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 blah. Okay, let's get to the crux, C-R-U-X, of the matter. There's a lot of things going on, so what we're going to try to do is we're going to try to educate you. Do not focus so much on what's on the screen. I just kept that on the screen because I didn't want you to have a black screen. Remember all those black screens that we provided to you? And some of our intro and extras? We don't want you to have a black screen. We want something to be going on in the background. We'll talk about this site and the other sites associated with the FamilyGuardian.org in just a moment. However, let's give you an update on A4V, EFT. What does EFT stand for? EFT stands for Electronic Funds Transfer. Well, what does A4V stand for? Well, it's some generic term that some person thought of some time ago. And so we come to the sum total of accepted for value. That's not a real term, is it? No, it's not a real term. But it's a generic term. Oh, I know generic. I buy lots of generic things. I suppose I save a little bit of money. Yes, but it's not that type of generic. This is not a saving money's generic term. The acceptance for value comes from the Uniform Commercial Code under the term acceptance. And the value comes from the same code, which talks about the value of currency and commodities. So it is accepted, and the number 4 just means the person is accepting it for whatever value is deemed or said to be necessary. Oh, okay, that doesn't make any sense, but I get it. There you go. I got it before you did, though. All right. Now, let's deal with A4V first, shall we? Okay. A4V. Most of you have been doing A4V, and you've been sending your documents to the U.S. Treasury and the IRS Department in Ogden, Utah, and in that wonderful place in, was it Covington? And Washington, D.C. We're going to tell you that that was partially right. For most of you attempting to do it through the U.S. Treasury, remember it is the U.S. Treasury's job to offset all debt that is obtained by the public. But we have to do a little bit more research because we're literally cracking the lid off of this. So we have to try to figure out why they've been blocking your attempts. And we've been doing so many other things that we haven't had the time to contact the U.S. Treasury Department since the last time we contacted and spoke to that idiot. So what updates do we have for you? You're going to love this. Myself and a young man known as Aquarius, that's his code, me and Mr. Aquarius were talking. We were talking about the United Postal Union. You guys know about the Unified Postal Union, UPU. We did a video on it. Go back and take a look, and you'll learn a lot more on the UPU. Also, go to the UPU website to learn more about the UPU. But getting back to the conversation. Myself and Aquarius were talking. And as we were talking, we understood that stamps had value. That there is no money. There is no debt. There is no spoon. Okay, that's when you clap your heels 3 times and you wake up from the dream, people. There is no money. There is no debt. The country is bankrupt, so you can't be in debt. So how do you get rid of the numbers? Remember, your books are not balanced. That's why you're receiving the notices, because your books are not balanced. You need to balance your books. So how do we balance our books? Through adjustment, set off, discharge. That's right, adjustment, set off, and discharge. Now let's understand what these words can do for you. What we decided is that, wait, if a stamp has value, and the courts have been ruling in just about every case of a person doing A4V that their documents had no value. They were just some random document. So how do we get around that random document issue? We do it this way. We attach a $1 to $3 international money order to our A4V. And we send that to our creditors. Now we know that this works because a young man was able to send an international money order along with the regular postal money order. So he figured he'd do both. He killed two dogs with one stone. And he sent both to his credit card company. Do you know what the credit card company did? Why, they not only applied it to his account, but they put a red flag on his account, assuming that somebody might be attempting fraud. And he called in and told him, no, it was me. I was setting off and discharging, as I mentioned, and we're not talking about that type of discharge. What I tell you people about thinking like that? Well, anyway, for the rest of you, he told him that he was setting up and discharging, or setting off and discharging his debt. Now, he didn't use the word debt. He was just setting off and discharging the account, and he was paying down a continual balance on his account. Oh, thank you very much, sir, for calling in and notifying us that it wasn't a fraud issue. Oh, no, the funds are available right now, and you have a good day. That's what they told him. They weren't arguing with him. They didn't debate with him. Now, several of us have been talking. We agree with Rob Ryder. We agree with Bill Thornton. We agree. We agree. You're not there to argue with anyone, so stop arguing. Stop debating. Look, let's make sure that everybody understands. HJR 192, what is it? Well, I'm going to pause you so I can pull it up, because we might as well go over that so you can understand why this stuff is working. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we're back. We said we were going to show you something because it was something you needed to see. We're going to show you HJR 192. It turns out that HJR 192 may have been repealed, but the statute at large is pretty much very similar to this. There's only one word missing that we have come to understand. However, we want you to stop saying HJR 192, because HJR 192 is not the phrase. It is statute at large 112, chapter 48. I was trying to pull that up, but I remembered I did not fully download it, so I'd have to be tethering to the net to show you that. But it's okay. We need to understand certain things about HJR 192 to ensure the uniform values to the coin and currencies of the United States. Now, please understand these terms. Uniform values. They gave it value. No. This is to ensure the uniform values, because remember, legal tender is the same as a paper dollar. We just explained that in the last video, and we're going to cover that briefly here. Now, to the coins and currencies with an S of the United States. Well, what other currencies do they have? Well, let's go on. Whereas the holding of or dealing in gold affects the public interest, you can't deal or hold gold no more is what they say it, and are therefore subject to proper regulation and restrictions. They're going to restrict our use of gold. Dang. Okay, anyway, I said dang, not the other word, because I don't use that other word. Whereas the existing emergency, bankruptcy, has disclosed that provisions of obligations which purport to give the obligee, me, the right to require payment in gold of you or a particular kind of coin. Now remember, we pointed this out before. We want you to stay tuned to this word, this phrase. Lovely phrase, ain't it? Cottonwood and collard greens. Anyway, obligate the right to require payment in gold or a particular kind of coin or currency of the United States. Now here's the next phrase that is important to remember. Or in an amount of money of the United States measured thereby. I'm sorry, I got to go up because I went ahead of us. Of the United States, or an amount of money of the United States measured thereby. See, I know it by heart. Obstructs the power of Congress. Well, technically, Congress doesn't have power. The power is retained by the people. So Congress doesn't have power. So this was a presumption to regulate the value of money of the United States. This right here makes this an illegal law. But anyway, we'll talk about this later. Now, they are regulating the value. This whole thing is about value. And we haven't been speaking on the value. Your credit card has no value. Your home has no value. The country is bankrupt. So it has no value of money of the United States and are inconsistent with the declared policy of the Congress to maintain at all times equal power of every dollar coined or issued by the United States. You see, equal power of every dollar. Well, guess what? A $1 bill is not worth more than a $10 bill, nor a $1,000 bill worth more than a $20 bill. Why? Because they have equal value. Now you notice it talks about that to maintain at all times the equal power of every dollar. Where are they deriving the power from? From you, the consumer. You give the dollar power. When you hoard it, when you make it your God, when you worship it, when you gotta have it, when you gotta charge everybody for everything, you give it power. Go back and read what they said. They said the use of gold and silver interfered with their right, their power, their, let's read it again, declared policy. Who declared this policy? It says the declared policy of the Congress. So Congress declared it a policy that they are responsible for maintaining the equal power of every dollar coined or issued by the United States. Now, do you understand? A quarter is a dollar. A penny is a dollar. It's equal. You don't believe me? Let's read on. In the markets and in the payment of debts. Now, therefore, it be resolved by the Senate and the House of Representatives of the United States of America and Congress assembled, that every provision contained in or made with respect to any obligation which purports to give the obligee the right to require payment in gold or a particular kind of coin or currency or an amount of money of the United States measured thereby is declared against public policy. Now, let's read that again, because we did this before and nobody paid attention. I want you all to pay attention. They decided, day. You saw Friday, day. Anyway, they decided that every provision contained in or made with respects to any obligation which purports to give the obligee, creditors, a right to require payment in a particular, in an amount of money of the United States measured thereby. Oh, I did say it right. A particular kind of coin or currency or an amount of money of the United States measured thereby is declared to be against public policy, and no such provision shall be contained in or made with respects to any obligation hereafter incurred. So pay attention to the wording. no one can require you to make a payment in any kind of particular coin or currency or an amount of money of the United States measured thereby. It is declared to be against public policy, thus against the law, and no provision of law shall be contained or made with respects to an obligation hereafter incurred. So from 1933 onward, there is no debt. It is against the law for anyone to demand payment in a particular kind of coin or currency measured by the United States as coin or currency. You don't believe me? It says every provision contained or made with respects to any obligation which gives anyone the right to require payment. Let's forget gold. In a particular kind of coin or currency, well, let's find out what currency is. Let's find out what the United States currency is. Would y'all like to find out? I'd like to find out. I'd like to understand HJR 192 because HJR 192 is the bomb. It's blowing up a lot of stuff, including, let's read B. As used in the resolution, this particular law, the term obligation means an obligation including every obligation of and to the United States, accepting currency payable in money of the United States. And the term coin or currency means coin or currencies of the United States, including Federal Reserve notes and Federal Reserve notes and circulating notes. You see that right there? Notes. The other one doesn't say that. This says notes, but statute at large does not say notes. And circulating notes of the Federal Reserve Bank and the National Bank Association. What are we trying to say? Remember what coin or currency means. It means legal tender, Federal Reserve notes. Look at your dollar bill. You'll see it's from the Federal Reserve, and it is called a Federal Reserve note. That is considered currency in the United States, as well as the coinage is considered currency. Now, let's go back and read A, because that was B. Every provision contained in or made with respects to any obligation which purports to give the obligee a right to require payment in a particular kind of coin or currency or an amount of money of the United States measured thereby. Sorry, we're going to stop that. We're going to let you read it. Kind of coin or currency of an amount of money of the United States measured thereby. Let's see what is measured thereby. Is declared to be against public policy, and no such provision shall be contained in or made with respects to any obligation hereafter incurred. Every obligation heretofore, meaning at this moment, or hereafter incurred, whether or not any such provision is contained in or made with respects thereto, shall be discharged upon payment, dollar for dollar. Imagine that. So if somebody says that you owe them $400,000, remember that they have equal power. Every dollar has the same power. That is why we use something of value. We use the U.S. postal money order because it has value. It is not equal to the dollar. It is actually more value than the dollar because it is issued by the sovereign of the nations, the United or Unified Postal Union. Now, let's read the thing about payment once again. We've read it was against public policy for anybody to demand payment of you, and that the very next sentence is a contradiction, but it's a very interesting contradiction. Notice what it says. Every obligation heretofore or hereafter incurred, whether or not any such provision is contained therein. See, it says we're going to ignore what we just said. Okay? Made with respects thereto shall be discharged upon payment, dollar for dollar, in any coin or currency which is at the time of payment is, which at the time of payment is kind of coin or currency, or in an amount of money the United States measured thereby, legal tender for public and private debts. Any such provision contained, got to move on up to the east side. That right there gets on my nerves. No, we don't want to set as default pace. We're going to do that. Nope, can't do that either. Oh well, life goes on. That's one way of getting rid of it. Let's go back up. All right, now we got the words together. Dollar for dollar in any kind of coin or currency which is at the time for payment is legal tender for public and private debts. Any such provision contained in any law authorizing obligations to be issued by or under the authority of the United States is hereby repealed. Again, any such provisions contained in any law authorizing obligations to be issued by or under the authority of the United States is hereby repealed. But the repeal of any such provision shall not invalidate any other provisions or authorities contained in such law. People, let's understand what's being said here. First, they've told you that there is no such thing as debt. Because of the current emergency, you have no access to anything by which to pay off a debt. Remember, it is against public policy for anyone to demand or require payment. Let's read it again so that you get what's being said here. We got to go up one more time. Sorry about this. We don't have to read the top. We just have to start where we need to start. Okay, because of the existing emergency, it has disclosed that provisions of obligation which purport to give the obligee, the creditor, the right to require a payment in gold or a particular kind of coin of currency or currency of the United States or in an amount of money of the United States measured thereby obstructs the power of Congress. We definitely need to stop there one more time. Congress has no power. The president, the executive branch, has no power. The judicial branch has no power. Not one single constitutional amendment gives any of the branches of government any power. So this is a presumption and a misnomer at the exact same time. But let's go forward. Of Congress to regulate the value of money in the United States. Remember, the issue is value. That's the issue. It says, and are inconsistent with the declared policies of the Congress to maintain at all times equal power of every dollar. Remember, they don't ever put words in these things that mean nothing. When they're talking about the dollar having power, they're talking about the power you give it by using it. You don't believe me? Let's read it. Every provision contained in or made with respect to any obligation which purports to give the obligee a right to require payment in gold or a particular kind of coin or currency, you're going to see this phrase, a particular kind of coin or currency of the United States or an amount of money of the United States measured thereby. You're going to see it at least 4 times in here. Is declared to be against public policy. And no such provision shall be contained in or made with respects to any obligation hereafter incurred. So this part down here is killed by this section right here. Because remember, any such provision contained in any law authorizing obligations to be issued by or under the authority of the United States is hereby repealed. But the repeal of any such provision shall not invalidate any other provisions or authority contained in such law. Here is the part that is not invalidated. No one has the right to require payment in a particular kind of coin or currency or in an amount of money of the United States measured thereby. What is coin or currency of the United States? Legal tender. So it is not illegal for you to discharge your debt according to their law. Let's read it again. Coin or currency. What is the meaning of coin or currency? Because it is important that we understand what coin or currency is. Payable in money of the United States, and the term coin or currency means coin or currencies of the United States, including Federal Reserve note. Now you notice it didn't say legal tender, did it? It said Federal Reserve notes. Now I just spent all of my legal tender today, and I don't have any extras on me, so I can't pull out a bill to see that it says on it legal tender. And I can't pull it out to see that it says Federal Reserve note. But you all know that. You all know that it's called a Federal Reserve note. That legal tender is a Federal Reserve note. Now, remember, up here, let's go back and we'll come back down to the Federal Reserve notes in a minute. Why are we going over this? Because some people have been asking questions about this process. They're wondering if they can get in trouble. Well, we want to make sure everybody understands you cannot get in trouble, because every obligation heretofore, hereafter incurred, whether or not any such provision is contained therein or made with respects thereto, shall be discharged upon payment. Well, what is considered payment? Value, dollar for dollar. Meaning, if I never received any dollars, I can just simply discharge it. In any coin or currency which is at the time of payment is legal tender for public and private debts. They use the word legal tender here on purpose, but I don't think they really paid attention to what they were doing. Why? Because any such provision contained in any law authorizing obligations to be issued by or under the authority of the United States is hereby repealed. Meaning if you had a contract with the United States prior to this, the United States could back out of that contract. They could actually renege on their contract. But the repeal of any such provision shall not invalidate any other provisions or authority contained in such law. So, because we found out that you have no way to pay, and they can never prove that you have a way, we're going to give you a way. We're going to give you a way. You're going to be sent to a nice little home where they're going to take care of you. Anyway, as used in the resolution, the term obligation means an obligation including every obligation of and to the United States, excepting currency, payable in the money of the United States. And the term currency means coin or currency of the United States, including Federal Reserve notes. Notes, promissory notes. Remember, they just told you right here that a promissory note is currency. Why do you think they can convert it into a check by writing paid to the order of? Now it says the last sentence of paragraph 1 of subsection B of section 45 of the Act entitled An Act to Relieve the Existing National Economic Emergency by Increasing Agricultural Purchasing Power to Raise Revenue for Extraordinary Expenses Incurred by Reason of Such Emergency, to provide emergency relief with respects to agricultural indebtedness, to provide for the orderly liquidation of joint stock, land banks, and other purposes. Let's help you understand something, people. You notice they called this an agricultural act? It was designed in increasing the agricultural purchasing power. People, you are the agriculture. You don't believe me? Go look. Go look up the term. You are the agriculture. And they wanted to increase your power, your purchasing power for these extraordinary expenses. Why? Because they were planning on putting you in debt. Relief with respects, I'm sorry, I'm getting my words mixed up, twisted. Relief with respects to agricultural indebtedness. You are the agriculture. You don't believe me? Please, go look. Go look. They just wrote it right here for you. It's amazing, isn't it? Okay, that's why A for V, apples and vinegar, works. Now, we wanted to help you understand a little bit about coin or currency of the United States. So let's read that again. We told you about this case, Thompson versus Butler. You've heard of Butler. Many people in Britain have them. Well, let's read the law, because remember, a particular kind of coin or currency of the United States, we need to understand that. And remember, the word is value. A coin dollar is worth no more for the purposes of tender in payment of an ordinary debt. Remember, that was extraordinary, but ordinary debt than a note dollar. Interesting. So they're telling us that a coin and a dollar are equal power. The law has not made the note, legal tender, Federal Reserve note, a standard of value any more than a coin. It is true that in the market, as an article of merchandise, and remember, the issue is not articles, one is of greater value than the other. But as money, that is to say, a medium of exchange, the law knows no difference between the two. So, the courts have been stating that your bills, your A4Vs, have no value. That's why we're going to affix a postal money order, and we're going to pay our we're going to tender payment, because that's all we're doing is tendering payment. And how are we going to do this? The very same way you would normally A4V. You're going to accept for value. You're not going to return for value. That's actually a bad thing, because if we are going to do the electronic funds transferring, we don't want to return for value, because now you're receiving something. The account can have no additions in a closed account. There can be no additions. But we just did this video so that you can have a better understanding what money is. When I say to you, there is no spoon. There is no money. Legal tender is not money. It is just a piece of paper. Let's read it one more again. That's right, I said one more again. As an article of merchandise, one is of greater value than the other, only in the market. However, but as money, that is to say, a medium of exchange, the law knows no difference between the two. Why? Because they're not money. The law does not recognize legal tender as money. It is not money. There is no money. There is no spoon. There is no spoon. There is no place like spoon. There is no place like spoon. There is no money. Guess what, folks? If there's no money, then that means there is no debt. All right, so let's tell you what we've come up with so far. We told you about the first thing, the EFT. Now, the unique thing about EFT, electronic funds transferring, we told you that that's exactly what it is. It's transferring information electronically. That's what our money orders were designed to do, is to have them send it to the bank and the bank to type it into the computer, the routing number and the account number. That's all that's necessary in a way to identify you. And so we would send our money orders to the corporations. They would type it into the computer and get paid. It's Friday night, just got paid. Anyway, now, what were we doing? We were actually ordering the banks to do an EFT without telling them directly to do that, because we knew their policies. But then we learned about the EFT, the electronic funds transferring, and we learned about the closed accounts, and we do appreciate all of the individuals who've been contacting us on the closed account. The information you've been giving us is overwhelming. Please, if you have more information, give it to us and we will share it. I talked with James today. I can't tell you James's last name, but for his anonymity. He told me his friend took the electronic funds transferring one higher level up. He paid a credit card. No, his was a light bill. He paid his electric bill with it. And he's done it several times. The gentleman named Fred who did the video on EFTs will tell you that he's never paid a bill. I'm just a bill. Yes, I'm only a bill. Anyway, that's the other thing we wanted to bring to your attention. Bills. They're called dollar bills. Why are they called a bill? Imagine that. It's called a dollar bill. Why does it have that name? Remember, with every bill there must be an order. So you receive an order for payment and you tender a bill. Whether it be a $5 bill or a $2 bill, you still tender a bill. It's not right, people. It's not nice to be tendering bills. You should be issuing the order. But anyway, we attach now, and we say you could probably use just a regular money order, a dollar postal money order, and pay your bill that way. Now, most companies are not going to know what you're doing, so you might have to do some splaining. Lucy, you might have to do some splaining. Now, let's get back to the point. It has worked for one person so much that he went to the ATM and he withdrew money. I said money. I'm sorry. He withdrew pieces of paper. He didn't make a profit. He was paying down a debt, or what's said to be debt. He was helping to zero out his account. Now remember, the sheet must be balanced. So when you lose, because you received an order, you are not adding to the account. The Treasury is offsetting the account, setting off. How do we know this? Because it is the Treasury's responsibility under the bankruptcy, as the conservatives, to pay the debt. Wonderful, ain't it? That's why they were the ones holding the gold, because they were the ones responsible for paying the debt. They're not holding the gold anymore. Very little gold there to be held on to, but that's another story for another time, for another day. Now, let's talk about the second thing. There were two things. There was the EFT, and then there was the electronic paying your bills over the phone or through the internet, and then there's the last thing. We talked about the wonderful little post office money orders to pay down our bills. That's the new A4V method. Why don't you try it? Somebody else has tried it, because when we came up with the idea, he had the sense of mind to try it, and I was just too busy to remember what we talked about. But he called me today and told me it worked, and so I told him that I would give him the props and the credit for having tried it and it worked. Okay, now you see this section here on the computer? That's the finishing of the A4V. See the section on the computer here? It says the practice of law is an occupation of common right. So right to practice law is a common law right. And that's Sims versus Aarons. And it was upheld that attorneys cannot represent a private citizen or the public, nor any business, as the state cannot license the practice of law. Now, there are ways that they get around it, but understand, an attorney cannot represent you in court. It's against the law. He can only represent something that's dead, something that is not considered alive. I remember when I was a kid, there was a cartoon that used to come on during the Christmas season, and it was, I forgot the name of the cartoon. It may have been called, no, it wasn't called The Littles. That was a different cartoon. But it was like a little speck of dust, a little speck. And these nice little people lived on this little speck. And this little speck was their entire world. Millions of them living on a little speck. And, well, there was a lot of rumbling and things going around, and the people wanted the outside world, which they had come in contact with, to know that they were there and they were alive. And they kept shouting as a united voice, "We are here, we are here, we are here." So, I'm asking all of you, now let's start shouting. Let's start letting these idiots know who set up this stupid system that we are here. I don't mean protesting. I don't mean ignorance. I mean we let them know that we are here. That we are here. What are we here to do? We're here to exercise our rights as men and women, self-aware of our rights as men and women. Now, on our site, we forgot to do it today, this being Wednesday. I believe it's the 23rd. We forgot to do it today, but we will do it tomorrow. We forgot to load up the new updates to the website. Those updates includes letters, just in case you receive any of your EFTs back in the mail. Now, I did an EFT on a closed account to pay off my Capital One credit card. And Capital One has taken my account and they placed it under fraud alert. Oh my stars, what am I gonna do? The same as they did with my friend in Colorado. And I'm gonna do the exact same thing. I'm gonna call them and I'm gonna say, what is the problem? Why are you playing with my card like that? Well, sir, we just saw some activity on the card and we wasn't sure. Really? Well, what activity did you see? Well, what about that activity could you not be sure of? Were you unaware of what the intentions were? Well, sir, blah, 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 blah. Look, I need you to activate that card again, and I need you to stop messing with my access to the card. If there's a problem with my card, I will alert you. I will let you know. Okay, sir, we're sorry. We won't do it no more. I know you won't do it no more. Sorry, that's from Robin Harris. All right. Let's see. Most of you who are in court, we're going to talk about the federal courts first. Many of you are in court, going to court, having issues with the court, where the IRS is claiming that you have defrauded the United States government. There is a flaw in that verbiage and that language that they are using to say you have defrauded the U.S. government. What is the problem with that verbiage? Well, let's take a look at it, shall we? If money has no value, then you could not have defrauded anyone. Look at the word to defraud. I guarantee you it means that you had to have taken something of value. This is their case law. This is Butler versus Thompson, or vice versa. And there said there is no distinction between the values of coin and paper money because they have no value. Let's make sure we understand what's being said here in this case law, because this case law is giving us the obvious. It ain't giving us the non-obvious. It's actually giving us the obvious. I'm trying to get the whole page straight, not just part of it. It says a coin dollar is worth no more for the purposes of tender in payment of an ordinary debt than a note dollar, because they have no value. The law has not made the note a standard of value. The law has not made the note a standard of value. You don't have to worry about this part, this any more than a coin. That's something we don't even need to consider. Let's understand what's being said here by this ignorant judge. It says the law has not made the note a standard of value. So those of you who are in court right now and they're accusing you of stealing something of value, make them prove that money has value. Notice, it is true that in the market, as an article of merchandise, one is of greater value than the other, but as money, the law knows no difference between them. There is no value. There is no spoon. There is no spoon. There is no spoon. Say it with me, people. There is no money. So how can you be accused of defrauding the government when there is no money by which to defraud? Now, the government has committed fraud against you by telling you that there was money. But that's a different story. Here's the other thing. When attorneys on either side, whether they're representing you or whether they're trying to prosecute you, this is what they're required to do. You didn't know this. I've known this. I just didn't know where the laws were. Do you know that an attorney is supposed to announce himself as being on a case? That the attorney is supposed to do this in writing? That the attorney is supposed to also prove that he's in good standing with the bar? And that an attorney of record is supposed to also put his oath of office in these documents that he files with the clerk of the court. Now, I just found out if you want to know where a judge's bond is, the first thing you should do, if it's a county judge, go to the probate court. I'm told that many courts house the bond information there. If it's not at the probate court, ask them, where are the bonds kept? They might give you the runaround for a couple of hours, but eventually you will be able to track down the bond. You can also call the Secretary of State's office. Start everyone who's having a problem with any judge, start notifying the judge that he is violating your rights and start articulating those rights. What are some of your rights that a judge may violate? Your First Amendment right to petition to correct the wrongs done to you by those under authority of law. You notice it says authority of law. Redressing your rights. Another one, the right to a common law trial before a common law jury under common law rules. Then you tell them about the cruel and unusual punishment, as well as the fact that the United States and the states have no power except that given it by the people. They have no power. There is no spoon. And lastly, the courts have no power over any lawsuit, whether it be a criminal lawsuit or a civil lawsuit. People, I'm pretty certain on the information we spoke about with the A4V, using the money orders from the U.S. Postal Service and the UPU, Unified Postal Union, just look up the two on the internet. Find out about the history of the UPU. They'll tell you. You'll see how powerful that organization is. So if they're the most powerful organization on this planet, that means that their documents have more weight. More weight. Remember, legal tender is not money. Legal tender is not money. There is no spoon. There is no spoon. There is no spoon. All right! I'm sorry, wasn't trying to hypnotize you. Wake up, everybody. I almost lulled you to sleep. I apologize. Want to thank you once again for listening to us here at the Legal Redress Commission. And if you think he's got a couple of screws loose, I want to bring you to this attention moment. It's not that I have a couple of screws loose. They may be loose, but at least I know where all of my screws are. That's right. I know where my screws are. You got a couple of screws missing. Do you know where yours are? Of course you don't. And I'm standing right behind you with a screwdriver. I'm sorry. Legal Redress Commission at redressright.org and redressright.com. We're also located at youtube.com/user/redressright and redress.right on Skype. Thank you once again. We ask that you all have a very good day and a very good night. No, we're not gone yet. Got to hit the stop button, so be patient. You see, patience is not a virtue. A virtue is a virtue, but not patience. Okay. Got to get one more click out of this, and we go. Good night.
Hi, this is Robert Masterson. I just wanted to let all of you know
Redress.
redress, don't you
We
get it?
we can camp out along Wall
We
Street
do.
and
Our
play
mission
That's right, and accomplish nothing.
supply.
Are you with me? Why don't we all accomplish nothing?
The legal
No, that's not the
So
way to
you
do it.
never
We gotta
want
accomplish something. How
redress.
do we do it? Do you have any ideas?